I'm probably going to say more than I probably ever have in any kind of board meeting. Let me first start off by thanking the individuals that we recognize for the FCCLA recognitions. Ashton, Bailey, Cadence, Peyton, and Riley. I hope I didn't leave anybody out. I'd also like to congratulate the members of the VSBA Media Honor Roll, the Alleghany Journal, Mr. Clark, the Virginia Review, Mr. Gleason, and the recorder, Mr. Pfeiffer. Also, thank you for everybody who spoke. I want to name them individually. Mr. Simmons, Mr. Brigham, Mr. Clark, Mr. Rollins, Mr. Madison, Cassie, Mr. Sizemore, Mr. Ayers, and Mr. Young. I hope I didn't leave anybody out. I had toyed, I had written a pre-written thing I wanted to say, and then I said, well, I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to speak from the heart, and then I went back to what I was going to say. So I'm just going to get it all out here. It may seem confusing, but we're just going to get it all out here. In reference to the transgender issue, we feel what you're talking about. I agree with a lot of what you're saying, and I 100% agree with the single stall restroom idea. In some research that I've done on this, there's a case law. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but I hope you go and Google it at least. It's and I had to because I was unfamiliar with it, and I think that's where this VDOE policy came from. It's the Grimm case, and I'm going to read just a little summary of it because it's like 60-some pages long, the actual case law. So I'm not going to read all that. This is a summary. It kind of tells us what we can and can't do according to case law. Gavin Grimm, which I believe this is a Virginia case as well. Gavin Grimm sued his school board for excluding him the restrooms any other boy in his school would use, simply because he was transgender. When Gavin Grimm came out to his school as a boy who was transgender, his school board adopted discrimination and new prohibiting boys with girls' gender identity issues from issuing the same common restrooms as other boys and girls. The new policy directed Gavin to an alternative, appropriate, private facility instead. Throughout the rest of high school, Gavin was forced to use separate restrooms that no other student was required to use. That degrading and stigmatizing policy singled Gavin out as unfit to use the same restrooms as every other student. The board continued to exclude Gavin even after he began receiving hormone therapy, which altered his bone and muscle structure, deepened his voice, and caused him to grow facial hair. Obtained a Virginia ID card listing his sex as male, underwent chest reconstruction surgery, obtained a court order legally changing his sex to male under Virginia law, and received a new Virginia birth certificate reflecting his sex as a male. Even after graduation, the school board continued discriminating against Gavin by refusing to provide him with a transcript that matches the male sex designation on his birth certificate. As a result, whenever Gavin was required to provide a transcript to colleges or potential employers, he had to provide a transcript that identified him as a female. Represented by the ACLU and ACLU of Virginia, Gavin sued his school board for discriminating against him in violation of the Equal Protection Clause in Title 14, I believe it is, of the U.S. Education Amendments of 1972, a federal law prohibiting sex discrimination by schools. After 4 years of litigation, including a trip to the Supreme Court and back, the U.S. District Court, the Eastern District of Virginia, ruled in favor of Gavin on all his claims. The U.S. Supreme Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit affirmed the ruling in favor of Gavin on August 26, 2020. On June 28, 2021, a few months ago, the Supreme Court denied the school board's petition, which saying they're not going to hear it, they're going to go with what the other circuit ruled. So we are limited on that as far as what we can do. But I feel where you're coming from on this. in reference to the argument and the issue of CRT. The type of person I am when I'm faced with difficult issues to discuss is I like to dissect the issue, find out everything about it before I form an opinion, so that that opinion can be an educated opinion. So with all the issues this community, especially this board, is bombarded with right now, it took a lot of research, not only through educating myself, by speaking with people, information available on the internet, but also looking to the Word of God for guidance. So when I dissect critical race theory, here's how I went about it. I started with the basics, defining each word. Critical, expressing adverse or disapproving comments or judgments. Race, a group of humans based on shared physical or social qualities into categories generally viewed as distinct by society. The term was first used to refer to speakers of a common language and then to denote national affiliations. By the 17th century, the term began to refer to physical traits. Theory, an idea used to account for a situation or justify a course of action. So this to me is described as expressing adverse or disapproving comments or judgments in reference to an idea to account for race relations. When teaching kids, K through 12, most of these students can't differentiate whether they're being taught something factual or something that's just an idea or a theory. Imagine an 8-year-old student 1 hour being taught about the Gettysburg Address, the Declaration of Independence, or Dr. King fighting for equality for everyone. These things are factual, and it actually is proven to have happened. Then the next hour being explained critical race theory, something by the meaning and the title alone that is based strictly on an idea of adverse or disapproving comments or judgments. Imagine the confusion most of these students would have. If the teacher is saying there's some kind of toxicity in me for being merely born white, it has to be true, because he or she is my teacher. But didn't the teacher just teach us we're to judge people based on the content of their character, not the color of their skin? So, now on the other hand, the research I've conducted on CRT has history included in the curriculum. Such are these issues that are factually true, such as slavery and the Emancipation Proclamation. From some parts of the syllabus, as I've read, that's included in some of the CRT. And I have no problem with teaching history, factual-based history. It's proven to have happened. And what Cassie said, and I've even written this down in my remarks, critical race theory, I'm not saying it doesn't have a place in education. I feel it belongs in a college setting where the students are old enough to know the difference between factual teachings and theories. At that point, it should be offered only if you choose to take the course. If you want to take it, you take it. If you don't, you don't. But we teach it to our kids who are college level, who know the difference between a theory and what's factual. Touching on the issue, on some of the other issues. I would like to thank everyone for coming out and speaking your hearts this evening. I also appreciate everyone being civil through these tough issues we're facing together. I see on the news around the country, as well as Virginia, people are getting loud and aggressive at some of these meetings. I knew this wouldn't happen here because I feel everyone in this community knows that we're feeling the stress of these issues just like you are. Know this, we are just like you. We feel concerned about these issues also. We are trying to work through them as best as we can. Please be patient with us. Some of the decisions we make may not go the way you feel they should. Some of the decisions on our hands have our hands theoretically tied and leaves this board presently without options. We will continue to relentlessly work for the parents, teachers, staff, and kids of this school. I have 2 pieces of advice for everyone. Pray to God for strength to get us through these trying times. Also pray for everyone in public office. Personally, I'll take any prayers you want to give me. I'll take them. I need them. Second, I'm a firm believer for a long time that the pen is a lot mightier than the sword. In this instance, the pen is a ballot. If you're not liking the mandates being handed down by the governor, I encourage you this November, get out and vote so we can get some common sense back in Richmond.
Yes.